By the way, I'm going to get more information at the end of this video, but there's a link in the description. I'm going to give away a copy of, I got an extra copy. I'm going to give away a copy of this. Well, one of my favorite things about running this channel that I've been doing now for almost 3 years is whenever something new comes out in the Genesis Phil Collins space or a new piece of information, I don't have to go looking for it. I usually won't find it on my own. I'll get an email or a DM from somebody in our community who will send me a message and say, hey, have you seen this? That's pretty cool. I love that. And before I got a chance to discover this next piece on my own, I got 3 separate emails. I think Craig was the first, so shout out to Craig, letting me know about this incredible new release called Genesis Six Sides Live. Now, this is not necessarily an official release. We know that because it's not something that the band themselves have promoted on their channel, something like the Turn It On Again vinyl on clear vinyl that released a couple of months ago, or the BBC box set. But this is something different, and we see a lot of these, right? And I review them all the time. They're very interesting. These broadcast recordings that are released in the UK, and they're released on vinyl. There's something special about today's record that I want to talk about that's different from some of those. If you'll remember, I've done a review on the LA Complete, which is a double disc. It's got some problems on its own, but it is nice to have Invisible Touch Tour essentially complete on vinyl. I really enjoy that record. They've also, the similar group have also done this record, which I did a review of, which was a gift to me here, the Nassau Coliseum 1981. This is the Abacab Tour. Why is the Genesis photo of the band from the Invisible Touch Tour? That's bizarre. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because when we look at Six Sides Live, which is a great play on Three Sides Live, but it's also not, and no connection to the Three Sides Live era. It's not necessarily the Duke Abacab era. But this is a somewhat of a box set. It's 3 records, and it is the complete Lyceum broadcast from 1980. Now, we're going to talk all about that, and I'm going to get informed and taught by people like you to let me know where these recordings came from, because from what we understand about that kind of the UK tour in May of 1980 is that there were multiple gigs, right? There is the Drury Lane gig on, I believe, the 5th, which I have as a bootleg, an original bootleg. I think that was one that my friend George sent me. And then there is, I believe there's 2 dates. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's May 6th and May 7th, where they played at this venue. However, the broadcast recording, the FM broadcast recording that this is based off of, and some of the other releases that are out there or recordings that you can access digitally or on CD, have come from the Genesis camp. And it's mysterious because we actually know that they recorded at least three shows during that time to tape. And we don't know if there was any overdubs that happened. We also don't know if they took the best songs from each gig, because the time that they did the broadcast, things changed a little bit. And how I know that is that there are some recordings out there. There is, for example, some of the Lyceum recordings were released recently on this. And so on this vinyl, we have 1980, Say It's All Right, Joe, The Lady Lies, and I Know What I Like. On the CD version, I think they also included Follow You, Follow Me, perhaps one for the Vine as well. But those recordings are different than what's on here. I mean, ever so slightly. I'm not talking about Sonics, although I'll play you some clips. But some of the digital versions that we have of the complete Lyceum show out there, and some of the soundboards or the broadcast recordings, there's just little differences that you hear. They're not consistent. So I listened to even, when with the way Phil sang a verse in Follow You, Follow Me, and compared it between this and another recording, it was ever so slightly different. Like the recording sounded the same, but just the nuances in his voice, he decided to go down instead of going up. It's very clear that it is a somewhat of a different recording, but I think that goes all the way back to the band. And I'm not well versed in this. I try to know as much as I possibly can, but when it comes to some of the live recordings of the day, you guys have a better understanding than me. So please let me know in the comments. But from what we do understand, there were a multitude of recordings that by the band officially. They're recorded in stereo to tape. There's audience noise. It's not a direct board recording, but it probably is the board recording as well, but it's a little bit better than a board recording, a soundboard. But we do understand that they took those back, and then what then came out, we don't really know. And so the idea of having a complete show from start to finish, it all just depends on where those tapes are. And yeah, so it's a little bit confusing because there are differences you can hear, and that's because they're recorded, at different dates. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is that people have been pining for a complete show for so long. In fact, if you read some of the comments about this show in particular, not necessarily this vinyl package, but this show in particular, a lot of Genesis fans say it's the absolute best Genesis era. And I think that's true for a lot of reasons, especially if you're someone like me who leans a little bit to the Phil Collins side of things, a little bit of like Duke and Onward. And then you take some fans who maybe lean more Peter and are maybe okay with Trick of the Tail and Wind and Wuthering, but start to drop off a little bit maybe after Duke or around Duke. Both of those groups find this common ground in this show and in hearing the Duke Suite, which is fantastic, hearing great stuff from Trick of the Tail, like Ripples. Of course, we have In the Cage. My favorite is Deep in the Motherlode, what they open with. It is a great show. It is a great show, and I have some recordings from this tour, and I really love the set list. I thought they did a great job with the set list. So let's get into talking about the record, because set list is a good transition, because the comments are going to be lighting up for anybody who's purchased this already, and they'll notice that there's some errors on it, which we'll talk about. Can you hear that lawnmower? I swear, every time I decide to film a video, one of my neighbors is like, now's a good time to weed whack my whole backyard. Anyway, I want to talk about the positives so far. So this is put together. It says it's FM concert broadcasts. We know this isn't an unofficial release. I spoke to, and I've talked about this before because I've covered a lot of these, and we're seeing these pop up all the time, not just for Genesis. We saw one from Phil Collins at the Tower. So we see these live broadcasts being pressed to vinyl and being brand new, and they're not necessarily official artist releases or officially from, let's say, Atlantic or Charisma. They're not officially from the labels. So what gives? Well, I've done a bit of research, and I mentioned a couple months ago, I talked to a record store owner here who said that there was a UK law, copyright law, somewhat of a loophole that allows for the manufacturing and the reselling of broadcast recording. And that's why you see on places like Amazon.co.uk and on Juno.co.uk, you see a lot of bands releasing or these releases of these vinyl releases, and they're put together pretty well, of these broadcast recordings. It's because it's a legal loophole if they're sold in the UK. That's why you don't see them in American shops and you don't see them on Amazon.com. The thing I've noticed about them is that the attention to detail on some of those releases so far haven't been that great. And I think that's what some of our viewers are noticing on this already, is that there's a slight more attention to detail, just even in the name. 6 Sides Live, it's a play on the 3 Sides Live. It's double the amount. It's giving us a full show. It's a little bit reminiscent of the 3 Sides Live cover as well. Then we have actual time relevant photos. Check out this too. We have the band members and the instruments that they play. Already we're seeing quite the attention to detail on this box set, more so on some of the other live broadcast releases. I will say right off the gate, this is like a really beautiful paper. There's another release from Knebworth. I have it here. It's downstairs. I've been listening to it. We'll do a separate review on that later. My favorite part about this is the spine. I don't know if you can see that. And it's the same for the other one. The spine is so damn thick. It's unbelievable. It looks so good in my record collection. When you compare it to just like normal spines, it's like, that's a little thin. Even the 3 Sides Live, which is the same thing, right? This is like a booklet that opens up. Even when you compare it to BBC, which is the exact same type of idea, which now the BBC has like a booklet inside. That looks really cool. But for some reason, the spine isn't substantial. And so this cardboard is way thicker, and the spine is just the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I collect a lot of records. And so, yeah, it's really cool. The other interesting thing is it says here Volume 1. So that kind of leads us to believe that there might be more in this series. I don't know what else they could do. One of the negative things I feel towards this record, and even the other record that they did, which we'll talk about another day, is I feel like I'm getting a little bit tired of this era when it comes to live recordings or bootlegs. I agree, this is the best era. It's the best set list. I really like the set list. I feel like as you got, towards the Shapes era, Invisible Touch, there was just so much of Wind and Wuthering and Trick of the Tail that they didn't cover. I don't think anything from And Then There Were Three. So this is definitely a great era, but I feel like of all my bootleg collections, I have the most of like Duke and Abacab era. I think And Then There Were Three, Duke and Abacab was maybe like the height of their popularity in kind of the indie music world, like in the underground scene, where it was really cool to trade bootlegs of this up and coming band. That, Abacab was like a super weird record and they were doing these weird shows. And I have a ton of bootlegs from the Abacab era. Same with Duke. So that's my only complaint. And it's not a complaint because it's great to own this. But one of the things I'm excited to see the volume 1 is because I just feel like there's more eras I could do for some bootlegs. I just feel like, the Shapes tour, we did get the Invisible Touch tour just recently on vinyl. We Can't Dance only exists in a super, super rare bootleg. And then I guess sort of the Way We Walk, sort of. So this is black vinyl, by the way. Heavy duty. I believe it's 180. Really, well, if not 180, 160, 150. It's pretty darn close. The box set is heavy and beautiful. Stay tuned for, quite frankly, the coolest Genesis thing, the coolest thing about this entire box set, one of the coolest things from the Genesis space in a long time. Just 1 second. Before I do, I want to talk about the track listing. That's wrong. That track listing is not what's on the record. I believe that track listing is the Nebworth show. In fact, all the track listings here are wrong. And I believe it's a misprint. I've reached out to them to find out what was going on. I think that they are printing new ones. So if you order this now, you probably will get the wrong track listing, but makes it a bit of a collector's item maybe. Also kind of a little bit of a nod to the old bootlegs of the past. I would say most of my bootlegs have incorrect spelling or just the absolute guesses as what the song is called. It's like Better Start Getting It Right or something. Like they just like listen to the first couple of seconds of the song and guess what the song would be called. So it's a little bit of a bummer. It really is. It's a bummer because the track listing is wrong and it's a really big package, but not the end of the world. The music sounds great. And what I've done is I've gone through and I've wrote my own track listing on side A and side B on paper, just so that I know what's there. I want to give one other complaint about this. As I mentioned, this box set, like this big record, it's 3 discs. We don't see this size normally. And this spine is really cool. It's very similar to the BBC box set or the BBC recordings on vinyl we got last year. What I hate about that collection and what I hate about this collection is this. I'll show you. Ready? Disc 1. Over here is disc 3. And this here, you can see already how annoying this is. Disc 2. So it comes out fine. But going back in, it's a nightmare. And I'm holding this thing open like it's some like old Bible in a church. And you can't see me right now, but I'm trying to stuff this one in the middle without losing the ones on the sides. And the BBC thing is the exact same. So help me, if I have to listen to the middle record, I've got to open it. I need a friend. If you want to listen to these records that have a record fit in the sleeve here, you need a friend to come help you because I can't get it out. And when I get it out, I can't get it back in. But that's a small problem. That's a champagne problem, as Taylor Swift would say. And it's not a big deal. And if it means getting this like really sexy spine, that's the thing. When you hit my age and you buy a lot of records and you're pretentious, you get excited about spines. I want to talk about something else that comes in this box set. And again, it just elevates it that much higher than some of the other Genesis releases we've been seeing. Like I mentioned, there was the Phil Collins At the Tower, which had like this bizarre picture of him and Frida on the inside. Like, why? I get it, sort of, but why? And then like the 1981 box set that used a picture from the Invisible Touch tour. And then you had the Invisible Touch, which was a 4-disc concert, but spread across 2 different records, as if, and people would buy just disc 2 for some reason and listen to the back half of the show. And both album covers had the same picture on the front. There's like not a lot of creativity, probably for licensing reasons. It's cheaper to, so that's what I like about this box set, is that they actually went the extra mile. And look at this little replica program from the tour. This is from the 1980 tour. And this is a replica program that includes things like an advertisement for Curious Feeling and Small Creeps Day, a Duke artwork that talks about the equipment they use, an advertisement for Bear microphones, all of the credits for the crew on that show, a great Mike Rutherford ad, lots of advertisements, including a Premier kick pedal, which I don't think Phil actually played. Is that the Speed King? I don't think so. Chester is featured there in an ad. Cassettes sound perfect. Only a rot pot prefers a rumble to a riff. This is talking about how cassettes are better than vinyl. That's cool. Only a rot pot prefers a rumble to a riff. That's probably saying that like vinyl, I don't know. Anyway, some pictures here. There's actually like an excerpt from Armando's book, which I have here at the house, which was included on the original programs, and some of his photos as well. This is from his book as well. And so this is like, see, that's the cover. So it's like a little bit of an excerpt advertisement for that book. For Genesis fans, it's a Revelation Melody Maker advertisement. That is so cool. Their discography thus far, and more pictures of the band, and an advertisement for Duke. It was well worth the wait. Isn't that cool? So yeah, this comes with the vinyl. This was included right here in the sleeve. So when you buy this, you get that replica program, which is really, really cool. Okay, you want to hear some samples? Let me show you some audio samples, because this was actually mastered. We have a little bit of a credit, a shout out to John Hughes for mastering the audio for this. Here's an old bootleg. Before I play you clips, here's an old bootleg I have. You guys familiar with this, right? Revelatory Genesis 80 and 78. It includes a little bit shows from the Lyceum Ballroom on May 7th, 1980. I believe this is the same recording that is used on here. Now, this one isn't cleaned up. It's quite rough shape. And anybody who owns this knows that the Lyceum stuff is played quite slow. It's a few cents lower in pitch. And Phil sounds like he has hit puberty again. He has a very deep voice, and the songs are a little bit more laid back. They're a couple BPM slower. That's the quirky thing about bootlegs. And so I'm going to play a clip of The Knife, and I'm going to play a clip of Follow You, Follow Me from this recording. And it's a little bit more muffled, you'll hear. And then, of course, I'm going to play a clip of Follow You, Follow Me from the Lyceum show from this vinyl, direct from vinyl to the Zoom recorder. And then I'll play a clip of The Knife as well. Here we go. have it. I feel like one of the things I noticed on that kind of some of the other releases that I've heard recently, some of the other FM broadcasts, there's a choice by the mastering engineer to either scoop it and to hype it up a little bit and to add more highs and more lows artificially, or to kind of keep things a little bit more flat. I noticed that this record was a little bit more flat than some of the other releases that I've heard that kind of push the low end a bit more. And I'm indifferent. I think it's cool. I'm more interested in the clarity. You can hear the speaking a little bit better, the instrumentation a little bit better. I love that the record is spread over across 3 discs and 6 sides, which is cool. You may also want to compare it with the BBC box set, which I didn't at this time, but you might want to listen to the BBC recordings on CD or on vinyl and compare some of the songs, like maybe The Lady Lies, for example. You could compare those songs. Those have obviously been remastered as well from the tapes, but it's not clear if it's the same recording. That's what's interesting. I listened to the Follow You, Follow Me, I think, from the BBC, the CD version, and it doesn't appear to be the same recording as this, because I think the band used a different night. So it's just really hard to know what night the recordings came from. You really have to kind of listen to like somebody yelling something in the crowd, or the intonation of a certain lyric, and then compare it to the other one. It's a little bit tricky. You know what? I've said this before. I just, for the sake of the channel, for the sake of my vinyl addiction, I'm always happy to see new releases come out. I think it's kind of a gray area, some of these licensed broadcasts, but from the research I've done, they're legitimate. It always, as you see things like this selling and doing well, and all of the other Genesis releases, I mean, there was so many of them. There's a double disc from the Selling by the Pound tour. There was the Chicago ones that came out, Nassau Recording, Tower Records with Phil Collins. There's a Peter Gabriel one out there I've seen. I mean, there's obviously an appetite for this, and I'm glad to see them release. It just always blows my mind. It's like, why isn't the band doing this? I mean, instead of doing the BBC box set that's 3 discs, why not do this? Why didn't the band take a chance to do the entire Lyceum with One for the Vine, Deep in the Motherlode, some of the absolute stunning performances we've ever heard? Why wouldn't they just do that complete show instead of like this live greatest hits? I don't hate that. I mean, I don't mind a live greatest hits. I have kind of an idea to do that myself, but it's not even a live greatest hits. It's like 3 songs from this tour, 3 songs from that tour. I mean, the BBC box set is as beautiful as it is the most head-scratching product they've ever released. But anyway, I really appreciate it. This is really cool. Click the link in the description below if you want to grab your own copy. I'm also going to run a little contest, so click the link or scan the code and enter your email for a chance to win. I'm getting an extra copy of this, and I'll ship it to you wherever you live. So let me know if you've got this box set. It's it's really well done. It's beautiful. The booklet is stunning. The records are great. The sound is great. The track listing is wrong. That sucks. Otherwise, it's really great, and you should check it out. One of the best releases to come in the past couple of years with the Genesis name on it. So grab your copy in the link in the description. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.